So we've been living here for 38 years, and you know, the landscape becomes part of your soul. I guess it's the result of 25, 30 years of running a small gallery out of our studio home, just down the road, which has been affiliated to a bronze casting foundry called Lockbund Sculpture. And we've been running, I think, a very successful program for, how long, 28 years, 30 years? But it's now sort of outgrown the original space, I think. And so we decided that, well, it's a good challenge to in our young state of life, to take on a big project like the Far Gallery. I'm a sculptor, and Jane, my wife, is a sculptor. And she's been making sculptures since she was 12. And I have been making sculptures since I was 12. And I have memories of making stuff, which was sort of like how I played when I was that age. I was making stuff when I was that age, and I've always been a maker. I've tried to make sense of the world through making. And the Far Gallery is an extension for both of us of that concept, really. We, as two artists, want to create a space where we can show work, but also we want to create a space where we can show other people's work, and we want to be able to invite the public in to see what we do. And there are a lot of good artists around outside of the sort of umbrella of London, for example. And I think we're going to have fun doing this. It's going to be fun. The great difficulty for many artists is art often wants to exist outside the commercial. Therefore, there's no money involved. So how do you make it? How do you show it? When I make my art, I want to make my art. I want to make what I want to make. I don't want to make it because the gallery thinks that one or that Simon, that'll sell really well. Let's do a few of those type of thing. So I've always been aware, I think, of the need for artists to be supported, and I've loved supporting, in a way, other artists. And I like nothing more than going into a small gallery in London and seeing an artist who's 27 and I go, oh wow, look at this, is so exciting. You know, it's because it's just this ongoing rolling wagon wheel of invention and imagination and intellect. The building is just it's a practical structure. It was an agricultural barn, and it's a big volume of space. And all we've really done is we want to create an environment into which we can show art. 11th of October is going to be our opening exhibition, so it's not very far away. It's going to be a show of my own work as a solo show. I sort of decided that it would be easier to have a show of my own work because I'd only have to deal with myself. Maybe it would have been a better idea to have somebody else doing the artwork and me do the building, but anyway, we'll get there. We'll get there. You know, the internals are going to be visible. All these big steel beams, the original steel beams of the agricultural building, are going to be exposed inside the building. And I just quite like that relationship between art and the architecture, art and the sort of practicality of outside world, which is farming. Every sculptor, and we're both sculptors need a practical physical space in which they can work. They need generally tools of the trade, and so what we've done here is create a space which is the space immediately behind me, which is the workshop studio space. And the hope is to set up programs of artists in residency, which we've been running quite successfully down in Lockbund. And when they've spent their time working here, hopefully they'll be able to then carry on and have a show in the gallery next door. We want to try and embrace the countryside as much as we possibly can. You know, so we've built the gallery at the bottom of a 5-acre field. And it's a beautiful, beautiful, slightly sloping, south-facing field. We want to just let it go a bit, plant some trees, get a bit of a wetland going. We're going to take it out of its old historic use of being a pasture field, and we're going to let it rewild a little bit. We're quite keen to open up the inside to the outside and vice versa. So as you exit the gallery, the aspect is rather beautiful because you'll be looking straight up the main field, and that field will just invite you to go and visit the work up there. You know, I come from New Zealand originally, and I left New Zealand when I was 28. And so I'm still really a New Zealander, but you know, when you spend nearly 40 years in this landscape, well, this landscape starts to occupy your soul, and it's become a very important part of who I am, for sure. And I think the people who come from this area, it's a key part of what they are made of, really. We do what we do because we love doing it. We're passionate about what we do. I mean, it's an exciting way of living a life, basically. That's what we enjoy. We enjoy the way we live our life. You make art for people to look at. That's what you're making it for. You know, you can make art in the studio and put it on the wall and sort of go, oh, that's all right. But the minute somebody else walks in that door, that artwork becomes something completely different. And so that's where art exists. It needs to be out there. So that's what we're doing, really.